disruptive.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hoping a fantastic day so far. So we know Jon Stewart returned back to his home of The Daily Show recently, doing Monday nights because the election year, and they're tanking so much in ratings that they are desperate to cling on to whatever viewership they have left. So let's bring Jon Stewart back. Now, I happened to watch the first episode that aired last Monday, and his initial return, I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't, the note of Jon Stewart-esque era that I grew up with that made me more politically aware, that was kind of interesting and uniquely fun. Was it as good as the original? Absolutely not. But, reboots, about sequels, like, it's never as good as the original content. But it was kind of the classic Daily Show kind of motive and setup, and they, told jokes at the beginning about, having Trump and Biden being the oldest candidates running in this race, making jokes about, Biden and his age. It was kind of compelling. It was kind of interesting. It was definitely a good shot. It was definitely a good shot. But, of course, because Jon Stewart somewhat, in a tiny sense, pushed that envelope of mocking Joe Biden and his age and his cognitive function to run in another presidential election, the establishment had to tame him off again. The establishment had to pounce on him, and Jon Stewart completely caved to do a 180. So his next episode, after mentioning about Joe Biden and his age and how old he's going to be running in this campaign again, he had to turn this around on Tucker Carlson, because the establishment always likes to pick their favorites when it comes to punching bags. And Tucker Carlson seems to be the top of their list, because a journalist doing journalism is, barbaric, according to the establishment. So this is from Hotspot, and they said Jon Stewart unironically tells Tucker Carlson that the reason why the U.S. can't have clean, functioning subways or cheap grocery prices like they do in Moscow is literally, and quote, the literal price of freedom. Jon Stewart pulled an establishment trope out of his asshole after mocking Joe Biden for his age. Like, it shows you how control the comedic world is. It shows you that you have to go down to Stephen level stupidity, Stephen Colbert stupidity, when he did that famous, monologue about, oh, well, I know it's going to cost you more at the gas pump, but it's definitely the price of freedom to save Ukraine. As he's saying that, probably driving a Tesla. He's saying that you should be free and you should be respectful of the fact that you're being price gouged for basic essentials, because that is the cost of freedom. That's the cost of serving your due diligence in Ukraine. As he's trying to scold people for that. Jon Stewart steeps to that level because the establishment pounced on him and he caved like a pussy. If I can even say that on YouTube. But that's really what happened. Jon Stewart caved to the point that now he has to regain the trust of the establishment, regain the trust of Comedy Central and its parent companies by attacking Tucker Carlson, because Tucker Carlson went to a Russian grocery store to compare prices. Now, I can't show you the Jon Stewart take of this because Comedy Central has, behemoth when it comes to copyright infringement. They will pounce on me and probably take this channel down if I mention a second about Jon Stewart. So, but I'm going to show you Tucker Carlson going through this grocery store. And what Tucker Carlson did, it kind of reminds me of what Max Blumenthal did when it came to Venezuela. Because, I don't know if people remember Max Blumenthal, when they were trying to pin Venezuela as this, socialist, toxic nightmare, and there was no food in place, and people were starving, and they can't afford essentials like bread. Max Blumenthal decide, hey, I'm going to go to Venezuela. I'm going to go to capital city of Venezuela and see how they live. And went through a grocery store, went through a department store, went through the streets of whatever town it was, Caracas, I believe, and showed people how they were high functioning. They were doing well. They were actually doing well under our sanctions posed on Venezuela than what we're dealing with right now. We were actually the barefoot. We were actually the ones suffering the most here in North America compared to Venezuela. And we posed sanctions on Venezuela to try to crush their economy, to try to crush their standards of living. The same we did with Russia. And it turns out we are the ones that get the blowback. We're the ones that get screwed over with sanctions. Because as you're about to see here, Tucker Carlson is going to show the world exactly how the Russian economy is actually flourishing amid our, total destruction, trying to destruct the Russian economy. They're actually flourishing more with our sanctions and trying to impose tactics to try to shut down the Russian economy. Take a look at this.
A long-standing feature, maybe the longest-standing feature of Cold War propaganda in the West was the Soviet grocery store. No products, no choices, shoddily made things. And it wasn't actually propaganda, it was real. And you can look up the pictures on the internet if you want. So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at a contemporary.
So that would be the setup that our media and the propagandizers would be telling us constantly, that this is, in Russia, you can't get flavored cereals. In Venezuela, in order for you to buy meat, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. You go to any other country in the world, it's price gouging. They don't have lucrative food. But if you go to Costco here in North America, you can get 100 different plus flavors of breakfast cereals, all containing sugar. Like, that's how they would impose it onto us. But here, luckily for Tucker Carlson and people like Max Blumenthal who actually go to these places and visit them and tell us about it, journalism, God forbid, is going to show us exactly how a Russian grocery store is functioning, even with our sanctions imposed on it.
Modern day 2024 Russian grocery store, 2 years into sanctions. Here we go. All right, there we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here and you get it back when you put the cart back.
Okay, so it's like our grocery store.
So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment. Okay, this is the grocery.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny that he points that out, because that's our grocery stores here. Like, if you go to a No Frills, or you go to a Loblaws or a Zehrs, like those are the big chain stores here in Canada. They have similar things where you put in a quarter for a cart, and that's the initiative to return your carts, and so it doesn't get stolen, doesn't get damaged, doesn't get ruined. And say what you want about it. It's like, I understand if it goes up to like $2 a cart, that kind of puts it on the line. But a quarter, I get it. I get it. I'd put a quarter in for a cart. You're using their product. I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I would be for it.
Grocery cart escalator. This is designed, I'm figuring this out now, where the wheels don't move, they lock on the grocery cart escalator. Look, Ma, no hands. Retail placement here is a little bit different. So it's like walking through Macy's to get to Whole Foods. Okay, we've gotten through the perfume section to get to the grocery store. So we're gonna try and buy what a family of 4 would buy every week, and we're gonna see what the selection is, and we're gonna see what it costs. Now, Russia is famous for its bread, which is one thing I can assess pretty well. The low-carb lifestyle has not swept Russia. Thank heaven, because look at that. It's fresh, too. Look at that. Oh, come on. Unicorn and mini mills. All right. Some kind of Russian wheat cookies. Ooh, we need coffee, don't we? Yeah. don't know if this is sugar or flour, to be honest with you, but it looks like a staple, so we should get it. It's a very good looking package. It's got to be flour, right? And this is Russian wine. It's from Crimea, which not only has the warm water naval base, but also is the source of most of the grapes in this part of Russia for wine. So it's apparently pretty good. Cheese puffs. You check out of a grocery store and you've got gum, razor blades, and candy. Actually, they hide the razor blades because we steal them. But these are all seem to be Western products. Mars, Twix, Snickers, Milky Way, Bounty, Gillette, Paul's Cough Drops, Mentos. Looks pretty non-sanctioned to me, but what do I know? I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around 400 bucks, about 400 bucks. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized. We're not making any of this up, by the way, at all.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Again, if more journalists did what Tucker Carlson, Max Blumenthal, and Aaron Mate, and so many others, I would even consider Anthony Bourdain a journalist. Like, he had a show on CNN, and it was the most most watchable show that CNN has ever produced. Honest to God, Anthony Bourdain, if it wasn't for his show, CNN should have tanked. CNN would have tanked and just lost all credibility. But Anthony Bourdain, because he went to different countries and showed people, oh, this is how Iranians live. This is how Indian people live. This is how people in China, people in this country, people in that country, people this side of the board, this side of America. Just showing the lifestyle and the cultures and the way of life that people experience all around the world. I learned more from that than sitting down and listening to 5 minutes of Rachel Maddow spewing garbage at me. Because Rachel Maddow, she wouldn't go to a grocery store in Russia. She would never even bother to go to Moscow. She would come up with some excuse about, oh my God, well, they're against gay people. And as a lesbian, news anchor of the highly successful news show, I have no diligence to go over there. Like, they come up with random excuses to not do journalism. And it's embarrassing. And that's why people like Tucker Carlson, it comes down to people like Tucker Carlson, regardless of how you feel about him, he's the most prominent journalist because he actually does the work. He actually goes to these countries and partakes and learns and socialize. Like, he went through a grocery store just showing how the sanctions against Russia and the Russia economy is not being impacted or being hurt by America. We're not doing anything to stymie against the Russian economy. In fact, we're hurting our economy by doing it. The ruble is the most successful currency in the world because of our wrongdoing, because of us. We screwed up horribly. And no one's getting punished. No one's being prosecuted. No one's being held on trial. In fact, right now, they're trying to send even more money to send more to Ukraine, to an unsuccessful war, to a war that's going to end in more bloodshed and tyranny, more misery than already is compelled. And it's just going to be an absolute worst disaster in all of human history. They're sending more money that Ukrainians are dying on the base of U.S. Capitol. And the U.S. Capitol is tanking. Wow. That is some great material. That is some great material from Tucker Carlson. And the fact that Jon Stewart has to go down to the absolute stupid ass neoliberal level by saying that, hey, you know, a bag of groceries at your grocery store here in America or Canada is worth the price of freedom. But, you know, go to Russia, you can have a full grocery cart and feed a family of 4 or 5, as Tucker Carlson was trying to, you know, predict in that segment, for just over $100. Like, it does radicalize you. It does radicalize you. It makes you really think hard about our standard of living, the direction of where our countries are going, and how far they're going to, you know, succeed, how far they're going to continue to push this as much as possible. As they're starving our nation, as they're starving our people, and starving our economic system to impose more and more of these worthless sanctions on a country that's succeeding without us. Like, it's just embarrassing. But way to go, Tucker Carlson. Continue up the good work.